The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with their usual quiet hiss. Taemin walked through them like he had done hundreds of times before, but something felt wrong today. The air seemed different, empty. He looked toward the far corner where the human delegation always sat. 3 small chairs arranged in a neat row. Today, like every day for the past 3 months, those chairs were empty. Taemin shook his blue-scaled head and moved to his own seat. Around him, representatives from dozens of species filled their assigned places. The tall, crystal-like beings from Xerion sparkled as they moved. The furry Kethans chatted quietly among themselves. The massive Gorlax delegates made the floor, shake with each step, but the human corner stayed silent. "The council will come to order," announced Speaker Velandra. Her voice echoed through the chamber from her position high above them all. Her golden skin gleamed under the artificial lights, and her 4 arms moved gracefully as she spoke. "Before we begin today's trade discussions, I want to address the continued absence of the human delegation." A few representatives turned to look at the empty chairs. Most didn't bother. "It has been 97 standard days since the humans left our space," Velandra continued. "They sent polite messages about wanting to focus on their own development. Very polite. Very human." Some delegates laughed. Taemin didn't find it funny. "Their departure proves what many of us always knew," the speaker went on. "Humans were never truly ready for galactic civilization. They couldn't handle the responsibility. They couldn't compete with more advanced species." More laughter filled the chamber. Taemin remembered Hyunwoo, the human liaison he had worked with for 5 years. Hyunwoo had always been quiet, always listening, always taking notes. He never seemed worried about competing with anyone. "The galaxy is better without their primitive thinking," added Councillor Zefkol, his tentacles waving dismissively. "Good riddance to them." Taemin stood up. The chamber grew quiet. "Speaker Velandra, with respect, something doesn't feel right about this." "What do you mean, Councillor Taemin?" "The humans didn't just leave. They vanished. All of them. At the same time. From every world, every station, every ship. That's not normal." Velandra's golden face showed annoyance. "They obviously planned their departure. So what? How do you plan the disappearance of an entire species? We're talking about billions of beings across thousands of worlds, all gone in the same week." The chamber was completely silent now. Even the Kethans had stopped their chattering. "I've been reviewing the reports," Taemin continued. "Human colonies, on the rim worlds, empty. Human trade stations, empty. Human research facilities, empty. But here's the strange part. Nothing was damaged. No signs of fighting, no distress signals. They just left." Councillor Rethan from the Mokari Empire leaned forward. His reptilian features showed interest. "What kind of evacuation leaves everything behind?" "That's just it," Taemin said. "They didn't leave everything behind. They left the buildings, the furniture, the basic equipment, but anything valuable, anything advanced, anything useful, gone." He activated his data pad and projected images into the air above them. Pictures of empty human settlements appeared, rotating slowly for all to see. "Look at these colonies. The houses are there. The streets are there. Even the parks and gardens are still maintained by automated systems. But look closer." The images zoomed in on specific buildings. Computer cores, removed. Power generators, gone. Communication arrays, taken. Medical equipment, missing. They didn't abandon these places. They stripped them clean of anything important. Velandra's 4 arms crossed over her chest. Perhaps they sold their equipment before leaving. "To who?" Taemin asked. "I've checked the trade records. No major sales. No equipment transfers. The humans just took everything with them." Another delegate spoke up. It was Yathara from the Centauri Federation. Her insect-like features clicked nervously as she talked. "My traders reported something similar. The humans they worked with started buying strange things in the months before they left. Buying a lot of strange things. What kind of things? Taemin asked. Materials we thought were for normal colony development. Raw metals, quantum processors, biological samples. But when we add up all the purchases... She paused, her compound eyes reflecting the chamber lights. They bought enough materials to build hundreds of new colonies. Maybe thousands. The chamber erupted in confused voices. Representatives began talking to each other in dozens of different languages. "Order! Order!" Velandra shouted. "This is all speculation." "Is it?" Taemin pulled up more data. "I contacted my old liaison, Hyunwoo. His personal communicator is dead, so I tried So Young from their trade delegation. Dead. Ki-jun from their military attaché office. Dead. Not just turned off. Completely disconnected from the galactic network." He looked around the chamber at the suddenly worried faces. "I tried every human contact I had. 47 different people. Every single communication line is severed. It's like they never existed." Counselor Mektar from the hegemony spoke with his booming voice. "Communication equipment fails. So what?" "All at once? Across the entire galaxy? And here's something else strange." Taemin brought up another display. "In the last 6 months before they left, human representatives requested access to our databases more than usual. A lot more." "What kind of databases?" Velandra asked. She was trying to sound unconcerned, but Taemin could hear worry in her voice. "Star charts, trade routes, military fleet compositions, economic data, resource surveys, everything." The chamber fell silent again. So Young from their trade delegation downloaded complete economic records for 17 different sectors. She said it was for a research project on interspecies commerce. Ki-jun requested detailed information about Council military capabilities. He said it was for joint defense planning that never happened. Hyun-woo asked for demographic data on every Council species, population numbers, colony locations, industrial capacity. He said humans wanted to understand their neighbors better. Taemin looked directly at Speaker Velandra. They weren't just taking notes. They were gathering intelligence. For months, maybe years. And then they disappeared with everything they learned. The silence in the chamber was uncomfortable now. Representatives were looking at each other with worry instead of amusement. "Even if that's true," Velandra said slowly, "what could they do with such information? They were the weakest species in the Council. Their technology was centuries behind. Ours. Was it?" Taemin asked quietly. "What do you mean? I mean, how do we really know how advanced they were? They always acted humble, always said they were learning from us, always asked for help with their problems. But what if that was just an act?" The chamber erupted again, this time with worried voices instead of laughter. Taemin sat down, his job done. Around him, the most powerful species in the galaxy were starting to realize something that made his scales tingle with fear. They had never really known the humans at all. Da-Hyun's scales shifted from blue to purple as she stared at her trading records. The small screen in her cramped office aboard the merchant vessel Star's Edge showed numbers that made no sense. Or maybe they made too much sense. She rubbed her eyes with one clawed hand and looked again. The numbers didn't change. For the past 3 days, ever since that council meeting where the Altarian delegate had talked about human disappearance, she couldn't stop thinking about her human customers. They had been some of her best clients. Always paid on time, never argued about prices, always very polite, maybe too polite. Da-Hyun pulled up the file for her most frequent human contact, Jae-ho Park. Human male, mid-30s, claimed to work for something called Deep Space Mining Consortium. She had sold him equipment for 2 years before the humans vanished. She scrolled through their transaction history. Gravitational field, generators, quantum drilling equipment, industrial fabricators, massive quantities of rare metals, all supposedly for asteroid mining operations in remote systems. At first, it had seemed normal. Humans were always trying to catch up with other species' technology. Their mining operations were small compared to what the Gorlax or Hegemony could do. But Jeho kept buying more equipment, much more. Dahyun did some quick calculations on her tablet. The amount of mining equipment Jeho had purchased over 2 years could strip mine an entire planet. Not just asteroids, whole worlds. Her scales shifted to a worried orange color. She opened another file. Min Seo Kim, human female, claimed to represent agricultural development companies. Min Seo had bought biological samples, terraforming equipment, and environmental processors. Lots of them. Dahyun had thought it was sweet how much humans cared about growing food on their colonies. Other species just imported what they needed or used artificial nutrients. But humans always wanted to grow real plants and raise real animals. Min Seo had bought seeds rated for extreme environments, seeds that could grow in radiation, in toxic soil, in atmospheres that would kill most other species. She had bought atmospheric processors capable of turning gas giants into garden worlds. She had bought genetic samples from hundreds of different species. The quantities were enormous, enough to terraform thousands of worlds. Dahyun's office felt smaller suddenly. She stood up and paced in the tiny space, her tail twitching nervously. She opened a third file. Woo Jin Lee. Human male, always wore simple clothes, always smiled when he talked. He represented something called Independent Transport Solutions. He bought spaceships, not just one or two, hundreds of them, not just any ships either. Long-range vessels with advanced hyperdrives, cargo haulers with massive storage capacity, small, fast scouts with military-grade sensors, construction ships with manufacturing capability. Dahyun had sold him hyperdrive components worth more than most planets' yearly budgets. She had wondered how humans could afford such purchases, but their credits were always good. Their payments always cleared. She sat back down and stared at the 3 files on her screen. Mining equipment for thousands of operations, terraforming gear for thousands of worlds, ships to carry millions of people. Her communicator beeped. A message from her assistant, Grix. "Boss, you need to see this. Remember that human woman, Yoonji? The one who always bought communication equipment?" Dahyun remembered Yoonji well. Quiet woman. Always asked very specific questions about quantum entanglement communicators and long-range transmission arrays. She had bought enough communication gear to connect star systems across half the galaxy. "What about her?" Dahyun replied. "She left something in our storage bay. Found it when we were cleaning out old inventory. A small package with your name on it." Dahyun felt her scales turn cold gray. "Bring it to my office." A few minutes later, Grix appeared with a small metal box. It was clearly human-made, with their typical simple design and efficient construction. A note was attached to the top. "For Dahyun, with gratitude for years of fair dealing and friendship." Yoonji Dahyun opened the box carefully. Inside was a quantum communicator, smaller and more advanced than anything she had ever seen. The design was human, but the technology looked years ahead of what humans had shown the Council. There was also a data chip and another note. "Dahyun, if you are reading this, then we have already left. This communicator will work exactly once. Use it only if you really want to know what happened to us. The data chip contains our payment for all future kindness you might show to any human you meet. Thank you for treating us as equals when others did not." Yoonji Dahyun's hands shook as she inserted the data chip into her terminal. Her eyes widened as she saw the contents. Financial credits worth more than her ship, more than her entire trading operation, more than she could spend in 3 lifetimes. But that wasn't the shocking part. The data chip also contained shipping records, not just her records with humans, everyone's records. Every transaction humans had made with merchants across the galaxy for the past 5 years. Dahyun scrolled through the massive database. The Centauri trader who had sold biological samples. The Hegemony industrial supplier who had sold manufacturing equipment. The Gorlaks, who had sold heavy construction machinery. The Kethans, who had sold computer systems. She cross-referenced the purchases with star charts and trade routes. A pattern emerged that made her stomach feel sick. Humans hadn't been buying random supplies for scattered colonies. They had been following a plan. A massive, coordinated plan that spanned years and involved thousands of suppliers across dozens of star systems. The purchases formed supply chains. Raw materials went to manufacturing centers. Finished goods went to staging areas. Everything moved in a careful sequence toward the galactic rim, then beyond into unexplored space. Da-hyun realized she was looking at the logistics for the greatest migration in galactic history. The humans hadn't just left. They had planned their departure for years, maybe decades. Every purchase, every transaction, every polite request for information had been part of a massive operation. She picked up the quantum communicator with trembling hands. It was warm to the touch and hummed with barely contained energy. "One use only," Yunji had said. Da-hyun thought about all the humans she had dealt with over the years. Always polite, always respectful, always paying fair prices. They had never tried to cheat her or other merchants. They had never demanded special treatment or threatened anyone. They had simply bought what they needed, said thank you, and left. She activated the communicator. The device glowed with soft blue light. A holographic display appeared in the air, showing a familiar face. Yunji looked exactly the same as the last time they had met, but she was somewhere else. Somewhere with stars that Da-hyun didn't recognize. "Hello, Da-hyun," Yunji said with a warm smile. "I hoped you would use this, but I wasn't sure. Thank you for being our friend when friendship wasn't required." "Yunji, where are you? What happened to your people? We're safe. We're home. Our real home. Not the colonies we showed the council." "I don't understand." Yunji's image flickered slightly. The communication was coming from very far away. "The humans you knew, the ones who sat in council meetings and asked for help with our problems, we were real. But we were also advanced scouts. Our job was to learn about galactic civilization and prepare for our people's next phase of development." "Next phase?" "Da-hyun. Humanity is much older than we told the council. Much larger. What you knew as human space was just our frontier. Our real civilization lies beyond the galactic rim, in places where other species never thought to look." The hologram was fading as the communicator's power ran low. "We learned what we needed to learn. Now we go back to our people with new knowledge and new technologies. Someday, maybe, we'll meet again as equals. Will you come back?" Yunji smiled one last time before the image disappeared completely. "We never really left Da-hyun. We were just visiting." The communicator went dark and crumbled to dust in Da-hyun's hands. She sat alone in her office, staring at the empty space where the hologram had been, finally understanding that everything she thought she knew about humans had been wrong. Seok-jin stared at the sensor readings on his command console and frowned. Something was wrong with the numbers, but he couldn't figure out what. "Na-young, come look at this," he called to his science officer. Na-young floated over from her station, her movements graceful in the low gravity of their patrol ship, Dawn's Edge. The Theta Coalition had sent them to investigate strange energy readings near the galactic rim, far from any established trade routes or colonies. "What am I looking at, Captain?" she asked, studying the data. "Energy signatures. Massive ones, but they don't match anything in our databases." Na-young's fingers danced over the controls, pulling up comparative analyses. "These readings are off the scale. Whatever created this energy was big. Industrial big." "How big?" "Big enough to strip mine a solar system." Seok-jin felt his stomach tighten. "But there's nothing out here. The star charts show empty space for hundreds of light years." "The star charts might be wrong. They flew deeper into the region where the energy readings were strongest. Their ship's sensors painted a picture that made no sense. Debris fields of exotic metals floating in precise patterns. Residual energy signatures from massive construction projects. Hyperspace distortions that suggested enormous fleets had passed through recently. "Captain," called their pilot, Jun-Ho, from the front of the bridge. "I'm picking up something solid ahead. Big structure." Seok-Jin looked at the main screen as their destination came into view. What he saw made him forget to breathe for a moment. A massive space station hung in the void, easily the size of a small moon. Its design was unlike anything he had seen before. Clean lines, efficient construction, no wasted space or decorative elements. It looked functional, practical, and completely abandoned. "Life signs?" he asked. "None," Na Young reported. "But the station is still powered. Automated systems are running." "Any response to our communications?" "Nothing. It's like no one's home, but they left all the lights on." Seok-Jin made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Take us in for a closer look." As they approached the station, more details became visible. Massive docking bays that could accommodate ships the size of battle cruisers. Industrial fabrication units that could build entire fleets. Resource processing centers capable of converting raw asteroids into finished products. "This isn't a space station," Na-Young whispered. "It's a factory that could build anything." They docked with one of the smaller airlocks. The station's systems automatically pressurized the docking tube and granted them entry, as if it had been expecting visitors. The corridors inside were clean and well lit, but empty. Their footsteps echoed in the silence as they explored. Everything was built for efficiency. No artwork, no decorations, no personal touches. Just functional spaces designed for specific purposes. "Captain, you need to see this," Na Young called from a side room. Seok-Jin found her standing in front of a massive holographic display. Star charts filled the air around them, showing regions of space he had never seen before. The charts extended far beyond the galactic rim into the void between galaxies. "These charts show systems that aren't in any council database," Na Young said, her voice filled with awe. "Hundreds of systems, maybe thousands. Are they inhabited?" "According to this data, they weren't. But look at these symbols." She pointed to markers scattered across the star charts. Red symbols for systems marked as resource extraction. Blue symbols for manufacturing centers. Green symbols for population centers. "It's a colonization plan," Seok-Jin realized. Someone was planning to settle all of these systems. They moved deeper into the station, finding more evidence of massive industrial activity. Manufacturing bays that could build ships, weapons, habitats, even terraforming equipment. Storage areas that had recently held enough supplies to outfit thousands of expeditions. In what appeared to be a command center, they found the station's main computer core. Most of the data had been wiped, but fragments remained. Na-Young connected her portable analyzer to the system. "I'm getting partial files. Looks like construction records, resource allocation schedules, and population distribution calculations." "How many people?" "Based on these fragments, billions. Maybe tens of billions." Seok-Jin felt cold, despite the station's comfortable temperature. "What species could organize a migration of that size?" Na Young looked up from her analysis with wide eyes. "Captain, I found something else. A partial personnel record." She activated the holographic display. A face appeared in the air above them. Human, male, middle-aged. The name beneath read Dong Min, construction coordinator. A human built this. Place? Seok-jin asked. Not just built it. According to these records, he coordinated the construction of dozens of similar facilities across this entire region of space. More fragments of data appeared on the display. Project timelines showing construction that had taken place over several years. Resource reports indicating the systematic stripping of multiple star systems. Fleet movement schedules for ships that dwarfed anything in council space. Now, Young, when are these records dated? She checked the timestamps. Her face went pale. The most recent entries are from 2 years ago, 2 years before humans officially left council space. They found more evidence as they explored. Manufacturing. Templates for ships using technology generations ahead of anything humans had shown the council. Habitat designs for supporting populations in deep space. Terraforming protocols for converting dead worlds into garden planets. In one of the final rooms they explored, they discovered something that changed everything. A communication center with quantum entanglement communicators capable of instant communication across galactic distances. One of the communicators was still active. A message was playing on loop. The hologram showed the same human they had seen before. Dong-min looked tired, but satisfied as he spoke to an unseen audience. Phase 1 evacuation is complete, he said. All advanced teams have returned to the staging areas. Industrial facilities have been shut down and cleaned. No evidence of our true capabilities has been left behind. He paused and looked directly at the camera. Phase 2. Colonies are ready for settlement. The new population centers can support the main fleet when they arrive. Resource extraction in the target systems is proceeding on schedule. Another pause. Tell the Council we appreciate everything they taught us. The knowledge we gained about galactic civilization was invaluable. It showed us exactly what we needed to do to ensure our people's future. The message flickered and began. To repeat. Seok-jin and Na-young stood in stunned silence. Captain, Na-young whispered, if this is Phase 2, what was Phase 1? Seok-jin thought about the abandoned human colonies, the empty council chambers, the polite goodbye messages. Phase 1 was reconnaissance, he said slowly. They spent decades learning about us, our technology, our weaknesses. They made us think they were primitive and harmless while they built all of this. And Phase 2? Seok-jin looked at the star chart still floating around them, showing thousands of systems ready for colonization. Phase 2 is making sure they never need us again. They gathered as much data as they could carry and prepared to leave. As their ship pulled away from the abandoned station, Seok-jin couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Na-young, scan for other ships. In the area. Nothing on sensors, Captain. We're alone. But as they jumped to hyperspace to return to Council territory, neither of them noticed the small probe that detached from the station and began following them at a discreet distance. Seok-jin was right about being watched. The humans might have left, but they were still keeping an eye on their old neighbors, and now they knew that someone had found their secret. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called in the middle of the night cycle. Representatives arrived in their sleeping clothes, confused and worried. The great chamber that usually buzzed with casual conversation was silent, except for nervous whispers. Speaker Valandra looked older than usual as she called the session to order. Her golden skin had lost some of its shine, and her 4 arms moved with less grace than normal. We have received disturbing reports from the Rim territories, she announced. Reports that change everything we thought we knew about humanity's departure. The holographic display above the chamber activated, showing images from Seok-jin's exploration. The massive abandoned station, the industrial facilities, the star charts marking thousands of unknown systems. Gasps and worried clicks filled the chamber. Some representatives leaned forward for a better look. Others sat back in shock. "This facility was built by humans," Velandra continued. "Built in secret, operated for years, then abandoned when they left our space. It is one of dozens we have, now detected in the rim regions." Counselor Tamin stood up. His blue scales had turned a worried gray color. "Speaker, we need to discuss something else. Something about the humans who worked among us." "What about them?" "I've been reviewing personnel records. Chan Ho, who served as their economic advisor for 8 years, had access to detailed financial data for every council species. Trade volumes, resource flows, industrial capacity, economic vulnerabilities." The chamber grew quieter. Yi Jun, their military observer, attended briefings about fleet movements, defensive positions, and tactical capabilities for over a decade. "We thought we were educating them about joint defense. Now it looks like we were giving them intelligence." Velandra's forearms crossed defensively. "You're suggesting they were spies?" "I'm suggesting they were very good at their jobs, whatever their jobs really were." Another representative spoke up. It was Counselor Zethara from the Rigel Syndicate. Her crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. "My security staff reviewed the access logs for our databases. In the months before they left, human representatives requested information at an unprecedented rate. Star charts, demographic data, resource surveys, fleet compositions." She paused, her crystal structure flickering. "They didn't just request the information, they copied everything. Our entire database of galactic civilization is now in human hands." The chamber erupted in worried voices. Representatives began shouting questions and concerns in dozens of languages. "Order! Order!" Velandra called, but the panic was spreading. "Counselor," Mektar's booming voice cut through the noise. "If the humans were gathering intelligence, what were they planning to do with it?" "Maybe we should ask what they already did with it," replied a new voice. Everyone turned to see Counselor Rethan, activating his own data display. Images of abandoned human colonies appeared in the air. "My investigators have been examining the sites humans left behind. We found something interesting in their computer systems. The images zoomed in on specific buildings and installations. Every human facility had advanced scanning equipment, more advanced than anything they ever showed us. These scanners were not pointed out into space to watch for threats." "Where were they pointed?" asked Tamin. "At us. At our ships, our colonies, our trade routes. Every human settlement was a monitoring station, watching everything we did in nearby systems. The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. If humans had been monitoring council activities for decades, they knew everything. Ship movements, resource flows, communication patterns, military deployments." "How long?" whispered Counselor Yathara. "How long were they watching us?" Rethan's display showed timeline data. "Based on the equipment we found, at least 50 years, maybe longer." 50 years of observation? 50 years of careful intelligence gathering? 50 years of pretending to be grateful students while systematically learning every detail about galactic civilization? "There's more," Rethan continued, grimly. "We found evidence that humans were not just watching us, they were testing us." "What do you mean?" "Remember the trade disputes with the Centauri Federation 5 years ago? The ones that nearly led to war before human mediators helped negotiate peace?" Several representatives nodded. "We now know that humans had been manipulating commodity prices in that sector for months before the disputes began. They created the crisis, then solved it, making themselves look valuable while testing how we respond to economic pressure. The chamber fell into stunned silence. The pirate attacks on hegemony, shipping lanes 3 years ago, the ones that stopped after humans provided intelligence about pirate hideouts? More nods. The pirates were using human-manufactured equipment. Equipment that could only have come from black market sources controlled by human intermediaries. Valandra's voice was barely a whisper. They created the pirate problem so they could solve it. They created dozens of small problems over the years. Economic disputes, pirate attacks, resource shortages, diplomatic incidents. Then they helped solve each one, making us trust them while they studied our responses. Counselor Jex High from the Outer Worlds Alliance spoke up, his mechanical voice filled with electronic static. If they were manipulating us for decades, why reveal themselves now? Why abandon their operation? Because, said a familiar voice from the chamber entrance, they learned everything they needed to learn. Everyone turned to see Da-hyun walking down the main aisle. The Vraxian merchant looked small among the towering representatives, but her presence commanded attention. Honored Counselor Da-hyun has information relevant to this discussion, Valandra announced, though she clearly had not expected the merchant to attend. Da-hyun activated her own portable display. I traded with humans for years. I thought I knew them. I was wrong. She showed the council her transaction records and the message from Yunji. The humans we knew were advanced scouts. Their real civilization exists beyond the galactic rim, in regions we never thought to explore. What we called human space was just their frontier outpost. The chamber was completely silent now. They came here to learn about us, to understand how galactic civilization works, to identify our strengths and weaknesses. When they finished their mission, they went home. Home to where? Asked Valandra. To a civilization that is older, larger, and more advanced than anything in council space. A civilization that now knows everything about us, while we know nothing about them? Counselor Mektar leaned forward. Are you saying we've been deceived by primitives? Da-hyun's scales shifted to a dark red color. I'm saying we were deceived by experts. The humans never claimed to be advanced. We assumed they were primitive because they acted humble and asked for help. But humility and curiosity are not signs of weakness. She looked around the chamber at the worried faces. They learned our languages, our customs, our technologies, our weaknesses. They studied us like specimens while we taught them everything we knew. And when they had learned enough, they left. But why? Asked Taemin. If they were so advanced, why hide it? Why not reveal themselves as equals? Da-hyun smiled sadly. Because equals have to share power. Students get taught everything for free. The council chamber fell into a silence that felt like the end of the world. Every representative was thinking the same thing. If the humans could deceive them so completely for so long, what else didn't they know about the galaxy? And more importantly, what were the humans planning to do with everything they had learned in the empty human section of the chamber? 3 small chairs sat unused, as they had for months. But now those empty chairs felt less like abandonment and more like a promise. The humans would be back someday. The question was whether they would return as friends or as something else entirely. Captain Hye-jin had led exploration missions before, but never one like this. Her fleet of 12 ships represented the most advanced technology the Galactic Council could assemble. The best sensors, the fastest hyperdrives, the most sophisticated analysis equipment. 6 months had passed since the Emergency Council session. 6 months of growing fear and desperate searching. The Council needed to know where humanity had gone, what they were planning, and most importantly, whether they were coming back. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates where the energy trail leads," reported her navigation officer, Boram. Hai-Jin looked at the main display showing empty space ahead of them. They had followed humanity's trail for weeks, moving further from Council territory than any expedition had ever gone. The energy signatures left by massive human fleets were fading but still detectable. "What do our sensors show?" "Nothing visible, Captain, but I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies ahead. Something big was here recently." "How big?" "Big enough to bend space itself." As they moved deeper into the region, their instruments began detecting the impossible. Orbital rings around dead star systems, each ring the size of a planet's orbit. Massive constructions that could only be designed for one purpose, harvesting energy from entire stars. "Captain," called her science officer Jun-Ho, his voice filled with awe, "I'm reading artificial structures in 17 different star systems. The scale is beyond anything we've ever seen." Hai-Jin studied the sensor data. Each structure showed signs of recent activity but was now abandoned. Industrial facilities that could build entire fleets, mining operations that had stripped multiple planets down to their cores, space elevators and mass drivers that could launch continent-sized loads into orbit. "How long would it take to build something like this?" she asked. "With Council technology, centuries, maybe longer. And with human technology?" Jun-Ho paused, running calculations. "Based on what we're seeing here, they could build these facilities in a matter of years. Their construction capability is hundreds of times greater than ours." The fleet moved from system to system, finding more evidence of humanity's true capabilities. Massive shipyards that had recently built vessels the size of moons. Habitation complexes designed to house billions of people during long journeys. Fuel depots containing exotic matter for propulsion systems beyond Council understanding. But everything was empty, clean, abandoned with the same careful precision humans had shown when leaving Council space. "Captain, I'm detecting something different in the next system," Boram reported. "It's not abandoned." Hai-Jin felt her heart rate increase. "Life signs?" "No life signs, but there's an active signal. Something is broadcasting." They entered the system to find a single small object orbiting a dead star. As they approached, their computers identified it as an artificial probe. Human. Design. But more advanced than anything humans had revealed to the Council. "It's hailing us," reported Communications Officer Sang-Min. "On screen." The main display activated to show a familiar human face. Female. Middle-aged with kind eyes. And a gentle smile. The nameplate beneath identified her as Su-Bin, Speaker for the New Terran Commonwealth. "Greetings to the representatives of the Galactic Council," Su-Bin said, her voice warm and friendly. "We have been expecting you." Hai-Jin felt cold despite the ship's heating system. "This is Captain Hai-Jin of the Council Exploration Fleet. Who are you and where are your people?" "I am Su-Bin, and I speak for humanity in this matter. As for where we are," she smiled, "we are home, Captain, our real home. The colonies you abandoned were your home. Those were way stations, Captain, temporary settlements where our advance teams lived while studying galactic civilization. Our true home lies beyond the rim, beyond the reach of Council sensors." Jin looked around her bridge at the shocked faces of her crew. How long have you been deceiving us? We prefer to think of it as learning from you. Your species taught us much about cooperation, trade, diplomacy, and technology. That education was invaluable. And now you're leaving permanently? Subin's expression grew serious. Captain, humanity is much older than we allowed you to believe. Our civilization spans regions of space your people have never explored. We have colonies around stars whose light has not yet reached Council territory. The probe transmitted a data package to their computers. Star charts appeared on the display, showing vast regions beyond the galactic rim marked with human settlements. For the past 1,000 years, we have been slowly expanding outward, building new homes among distant stars. What you knew as human space was just our contact point with galactic civilization. Why hide this from us? Because contact between civilizations rarely goes well for the less advanced species. We wanted to learn from you without threatening you. We wanted to understand your culture without changing it. Jin felt a chill of understanding. You're saying we're the less advanced species? In some ways, yes. Your technologies are impressive, but they are focused inward, on maintaining your current territory and populations. Ours are focused outward, on exploration and expansion beyond known space. More data flowed to their computers. Images of human ships that dwarfed the largest council vessels, habitats that could house entire species, technologies that could terraform dead worlds or harvest energy from black holes. The humans you knew in council space were volunteers who spent decades living as you do, learning your ways, understanding your strengths and limitations. They sacrificed comfortable lives among our people to serve as bridges between our civilizations. Spies, you mean? Students, Subin corrected gently, though we understand why you might see it differently. Jin looked at the data flooding. Their computers. The scale of human civilization was staggering. Not just larger than council space, but larger by orders of magnitude. What do you want from us? Nothing, Captain. We have learned what we came to learn. Your people showed us the value of cooperation and peaceful trade. Those lessons will guide us as we continue our expansion into unexplored regions. And if we want to maintain contact? Subin's smile returned. Perhaps someday, when your people are ready to venture beyond the rim themselves, our paths will cross again. Until then, we wish you well in your corner of the galaxy. Our corner. Captain, this galaxy contains 400 billion stars. Council space encompasses perhaps 1,000 of them. There is room for many civilizations to grow without interfering with each other. The probe began moving away from their fleet. Wait, Jin called. Where are you going now? Home, Captain, to stars so distant that their light appears as faint dots in your night sky. We have new worlds to build, new challenges to face, new frontiers to explore. The probe paused in its departure. If you truly wish to understand what we have learned, from you, consider this. Every species we met in council space asked us the same question. What can you do for us? You are the first to ask what we want for ourselves. And what do you want? To see what lies beyond the next star, and the one after that, and the one after that. To build homes among distant suns and raise our children under alien skies. To explore the infinite possibilities of an infinite universe. The probe resumed its journey toward the edge of the system. Goodbye, Captain. Thank you for coming so far to find us. It shows that your people, too, have the courage to explore the unknown. The signal faded as the probe disappeared into hyperspace. Hai-Jin stood on her bridge, staring at the empty space where the probe had been. Around her, the crew worked quietly to analyze the data they had received. "Captain," Jun-Ho said eventually, "based on this information, humanity didn't just leave Council space. They've left the galaxy entirely." "Where did they go?" "The energy signatures lead toward the Magellanic Clouds. If their ships can maintain those power levels, they could reach another galaxy within 1,000 years. Hai-Jin thought about Subin's words. Humanity had spent decades learning from galactic civilization, then used that knowledge to transcend the very limitations that kept other species confined to local space. "Plot a course back to Council territory," she ordered. "Captain, shouldn't we follow them?" Hai-Jin looked one last time at the star charts showing humanity's true domain. Thousands of systems, millions of worlds. A civilization that thought in terms of galaxies rather than sectors. "No," she said quietly. "They've moved beyond us. The question now is whether we have the courage to follow their example." As her fleet turned toward home, Hai-Jin realized that humanity's greatest gift to the Council wasn't their technology or knowledge. It was the example they had set, that true advancement meant looking beyond the boundaries others accepted as permanent. The galaxy suddenly felt much smaller and much lonelier. But for the first time in centuries, it also felt full of possibilities that no one had dared to imagine. Humanity was gone, but they had left behind something precious. The knowledge that there was always another frontier waiting for those brave enough to seek it.